Woman, why are you crying? Who are you looking for? Let me say it up front. We cry a lot. And we're all looking for something. And the truth is, there's that one inevitable pall over it all. It's death. Death. Death is not only a robber of life, death can be a robber of hope and imagination. In the midst of death, we know it all too soon. I'm not just talking about physical death. I'm talking about all of the ways that we die spiritually, physically, mentally, the ways that it bears upon us. And when we go through any kind of death, whether it is our own death, physically, mentally, our own death, physically someone else's death, we carry grief and anger, the despair, the pain of loss, and we grasp for some measure of light, some love, some kind of life in the middle of it all. Death is a reminder, and boy, it is an inevitable reminder. It reminds us every time you look at the news and you remind that death is there waiting. It's a reminder that the cycle of fear, violence, and repression continues unabated in a cold world, whether it is the sending of a bomb or is the shooting down the block. And the hope is that a brighter day is coming. We do a lot of things to get that brightness back. We hope that a brighter day is coming, but that seems so far off and so unlikely. And there is no doubt that the experience of death changes us, and some of us live with the trauma in our minds and bodies far longer than we think we can bear it. And I say this to you because the disciples and followers of Jesus are in a trauma. Death, horrible death, visited upon them. Death that is supposed to make them afraid to move, afraid to leave, afraid to do anything. Death that reminds them that the empire is in control. Death of Jesus of Nazareth. And I simply cannot imagine what it is like to see the one you love, and in this case, the one you have just confessed as the Messiah, to be executed in such a horrific way. And so those who knew Jesus, those who loved Jesus, those who got the message and followed Jesus would just have to mourn and grieve. Because death has come. And they're trying to cope. They're trying their very best to cope with it. Unfortunately, overwhelming grief, despair, and the pain of loss can cause us, and it caused them, to become preoccupied with death and darkness. And so even Mary is preoccupied with death and darkness. One gets the sense after death that the world is too narrow, too dangerous, and too closed off to find joy again. And if we are not careful, we run the risk of burying love and light and beauty that our loved ones gave us. We run the risk of burying it with them in the grave. But before his crucifixion, Jesus anticipated that his disciples would be overwhelmed with the kind of debilitating grief that I just talked about. He knew it. So he said to them, "You will weep and you will mourn. You will have pain, but your pain will turn into joy. I will see you again, and your hearts will rejoice, and no one will take your joy from you." But I guarantee you they didn't remember that. They didn't remember those words. And John recounts Jesus' followers' first opportunity to come to grips with what happened to Jesus. He recounts that grief, despair, and the pain of loss drowned out that promise. that your pain will be turned into joy and your hearts will rejoice again. I know, because John says that early on the first day, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene comes to the tomb. And he doesn't tell us why she is there, but we know why she is there. Grief, despair, and the pain of loss drive us to go to the funeral, drive us to go to the cemetery, and we just drown ourselves in tears. I don't know what Mary was going there to do, but I know what she was going to do when she got there. She was going to cry and cry and wonder what could have been. But when she gets there, she found the stone removed from the tomb. And so she runs and tells Peter and the beloved disciple, they have stolen the body. Peter and the beloved disciple run at full speed to see what Mary is talking about. They get there. When they look in the tomb, they only see the grave clothes lying neatly folded where the body should have been. John says that the beloved disciple believed. Oh, we're not sure what the beloved disciple believed, but something is stirring in him. I believe. I'm trying to remember what Jesus said. Looks like Jesus had conquered death. He remembered Lazarus. Jesus conquered death. Oh, but Peter and Mary see only a grave robbery. Grief, despair, and the pain of loss blind them to the possibility. In their grief, in their despair, in the pain of loss, they forget that Jesus once declared, I am the resurrection and the life. In their pain, in their grief, in their loss, they forgot that Jesus told them he would see them again and that their hearts will rejoice. No, they didn't see it. And then Peter and the beloved disciple, they can't help Mary. Everybody is too preoccupied with death. You see what happens? They can't help Mary. They can't even offer her consolation. They're preoccupied with death. So when she looks into the tomb again, she sees two heavenly messengers sitting where the body should have been. Now, let me tell you something. If I go somewhere and I see two heavenly bodies, I'm going to ask a few questions. Mary didn't. Grief, despair, and the pain of loss can prevent her from realizing something is going on. Look, if I see two messengers of God sitting in where the body is supposed to be, I'm going to remember God must be up to something big. Let me figure this out. Oh, but see, that's how pain gets us. That's how grief seems to hide everything. Now, here's the thing, too. The messengers of God there should have tipped her off. But I used to wonder when my dad used to preach this, why didn't the messengers just say, hey, Mary, look, Jesus is alive. He's not here. No, but then I realized what was going on as I began to read it. See, the messengers are confused when they see Mary. They're confused. I figure out this is what's going on. The messengers has been celebrating. They've been celebrating that Jesus conquered death. Their friends, their messenger friends say, Jesus conquered death. So then they say, well, we got to go and see this grave that Jesus conquered. We got to go down and see how Jesus beat it. See, no one else has beat death like this. So even the messengers, because no one, even in their experience, has beat death. So the messengers are there looking like, oh my, look, Jesus conquered death. And then they see Mary crying. So their question to her is, woman, why are you crying? He conquered it. Applaud the man. That's what they're saying. Mary, why are you crying? Jesus has conquered death. Jesus had done something that we said couldn't happen. Jesus has done something that changes the whole world. Why are you crying? Oh, but all Mary could think to say, they have stolen the body. She missed it. She missed it. Grief, pain, the pain of loss. She missed it. So then she turned around and she sees Jesus standing there. Oh, but blinded by grief, despair, and the pain of loss, she couldn't see that it was Jesus. And Jesus asked her the same question that the messengers asked her. Woman, why are you crying? And he asked another one, who are you looking for? And I recall that this is the same question Jesus asked the disciples when they looked upon him. Who are you looking for? Oh, Jesus knows as we are searching. Who are you looking for? But inherent in his question was, why aren't you celebrating? I just conquered the grave. I did what I told you I was going to do. I told you that I will see you again. I'm here. The grave couldn't hold me. You ought to be celebrating. Oh, you all didn't even hear me. Y'all sitting there, y'all like Mary. You stuck. Come on with me. Why aren't you rejoicing? In her response, Mary continues her search for a dead Jesus rather than celebrating a living Christ. Oh, she's looking for a dead Jesus, y'all, and that there's no such thing now. She's looking for a dead Jesus, but a living Christ is standing there telling her, you're seeing me like I told you you would. But no, she said it again. If you have taken the body, tell me where it is, and I'll go get it. Oh, this is what happens. But then Jesus calls Mary by her name and breaks through. And in that moment of recognition, her pain turns to joy. Her heart rejoices. The cycle of fear, violence, and repression has been broken, and she is free. And then she does what we do when we get that life. When she recognizes who, she cries out and she tries to hold on to him. She cries out, calling him teacher. Oh, in the very presence of Jesus, there is now only joy and rejoicing. She finally recognizes Jesus. She is ready to celebrate. And she tries to embrace him and hold on to him, but Jesus won't have it. I used to worry that Jesus was being mean, but now I understand it. You're trying to hold on to a dead Jesus. I'm a living Christ. I got to go. Oh, you got to go too. You can't stay around in graveyards, honey. No, don't stay around where dead people are. Go out there in the world and tell people that Jesus is alive. Go out there and tell them that life is possible. Oh, you are not celebrating with me. I want to hear that life is possible. That life is possible. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what death said it can do. Life is possible. It doesn't matter how much death tries to hold on to you. There's something beyond this death. Oh, whether you're on this side of the grave, on the other side of it, life is possible. That's what he's telling her. Don't hold on to me. Don't hold on to me. I got to do what I got to do. You got to do what you got to do. You got to go and let somebody know I did it. Oh, it's over now. It's a new age. It's a new beginning. Things are different. You can dance now. You can celebrate now. Life is yours, abundant, free, unbounded. Oh, stop sitting there like you don't know what's going on. Life is happening right before your eyes. I get it. We some smart folk in 2017. We know the story of resurrection. And so we find it hard to relate to Mary and Peter and the beloved disciple. You see, we know how the story ends or how the story continues. They didn't. They thought death was final. They wrapped Jesus' body with spices and grave clothes and put that body in a tomb because they were not expecting life. They were grieving and adjusting to his death by doing what we do when someone dies. We go to graves and we remember them as they were. So it makes sense that joy and rejoicing may seem foreign to them. But for us, we know it. We know that resurrection shatters grief, despair, and the pain of loss. We know that we can imagine a new way. I know it. I know it. I hear the testimony over and over again. I should have been dead, Pastor, but yet I live. Oh, they told me, Pastor, that I could never get past the addiction, but I did, and I'm live today. Oh, they told me that I would never find love because I was gay, but Pastor, I found love, and I found a home. Oh, they told me I would never amount to anything. Oh, but they just didn't know that Jesus conquered death, and now I live. Oh, they told me I was no good, that I was a wretched piece of nasty something. But no, God said, I am somebody. I am somebody. You are my child, and I love you through and through. Oh, they told us. They said we wouldn't be anything, that it didn't matter who you were, that no one would ever love you. But I'm alive today. So we know that death is not the final word. We know that life is possible. We know that we can imagine big and new things, and God will make it possible. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to preach because I'm celebrating life. Not you, but I'm going to celebrate life. And here's what it is for my intellectual friends out there. The one who's worried that I didn't explain this resurrection business. The ones that I don't believe it. And let me explain it to you this way. In light of that empty tomb, in light of the conquering of death, in light of Mary's experience, in light of Peter's experience, in light of the beloved disciples' experience, and in light of the experience of all these people I know and all God's children who have found life, in light of all of that, we have access to life abundant, life full, life unbounded. That our lives do not revolve around when we are going to die. Our life does not revolve around endings. Our life revolves around imagining God doing big and new things because God has not retired and God is not looking the other way on us. We imagine big and new things because every time we turn around, God does something big and new. How can we look around and say, God is doing something big and new, and we can't believe in life? That's not us. We see God doing it over and over and over and over again. Even when we say it's not possible, God said, quit talking like that. It is possible. I did it once, I'll do it again. Oh, yes, I'm going to celebrate today. I'm going to celebrate life today. I'm going to celebrate it. Because I know this is what the empire wants. The empire wants us to be afraid, wants us to be afraid of each other, wants us to be afraid of our government, wants us to be afraid of our lawmakers, wants us to be afraid of the possibility, wants us to be afraid of the other, wants us to be afraid of Muslims, wants us to be afraid of our trans sibling, wants us to be afraid of everything. But God does not deal in fear. The grave was conquered. Death was conquered so that we can show the love that made that possible. Love is what animated it, and that's how we live today. Now, I'm going to get out of here because I got to go to brunch with my husband, and I'm excited about it. Our witness to the resurrection is all about our confession that God is working in and through Jesus Christ, which means that God is working in and through us. So what happens is we don't have to call Jesus brother anymore. We get to call Jesus Savior. We don't just get to call him brother anymore. We get to call him shepherd. And because then when he whispers our name the way he whispered Mary's name, he shakes us from that fear of death. He shakes us from that fear of violence and repression. Just calling our name just once. That's all it needs to happen. Whether we are on the floor on our sick bed or whether we're there wrestling with our addiction, whether we are thinking about ending our lives, all Jesus needs is one moment for us to open up our ears and hear our name called. And then it shakes us from that and we begin to do as Mary do. We say, Jesus, my teacher.